After 12 years of being a nurse, the biggest gap I've seen in healthcare is nothing medical. It's actually caring for our caregivers. And I think it's time to talk about it. Everyone, my name is Sarah, and I am the founder of the Caregiver Hub. And this video is a little bit more about me and why I've created the Caregiver Hub. So basically, the Caregiver Hub is just a place where caregivers can come together and really learn how to care for themselves, and not just like the fancy massage, like care for myself, but really learn how to introspect and care for themselves from point A to B: finances, body, mind, spirit, and soul. I feel like soft skills and the ability to tune into oneself is the new currency in our world today. That ability to have emotional intelligence is what's going to make the best caregivers. And when you can show up for yourself and know how to be the most true and authentic version of yourself, showing up for others just becomes part of what you do, right? So that is really my goal, my mission, and my why. And I want to tell you a little bit more about me and how I got to where I am now. So hopefully you're ready to listen. Basically, I'm a Canadian girl, background is African. I'm half Canadian, half Nigerian, but I was born and raised in Canada. I went to school in Canada, did my university in Canada, and now I'm actually living in Dubai. What? I know, crazy. But basically, I ended up here in Dubai because I've always felt this need, this desire to learn more about others and learn more about cultures and travel. So after working a few years in Canada, I started applying to jobs in Saudi Arabia and to the Middle East, and I ended up in Abu Dhabi. So I worked in Abu Dhabi for maybe about 6.5 years, and I was working at Cleveland Clinic, Abu Dhabi, which was such an amazing experience. I did 4 years at the bedside in Abu Dhabi. So I worked, it's crazy here because you actually get so many experiences. You have the opportunity to try so many things here in the Middle East that you probably wouldn't get a chance to do in Canada, especially because there's so many levels of seniority, and like switching within jobs can be kind of difficult. But basically, I worked in respiratory and I worked in vascular, and I was a gen surge nurse to begin with, and I was a charge nurse there, and I just had the opportunity to like move around within the healthcare or the bedside um, units there. And after that, I ended up taking a urodynamics course, and I moved to the urology clinic where I was a urodynamics nurse for about 2 years, which is such an amazing experience. And I'm going to go on a little tangent about that for a little bit because it ties in so perfectly with what I'm talking about. So basically, being a urodynamics nurse was so much fun. And usually people feel really uncomfortable talking about, the down here bits, but I love it. I love talking about things that are uncomfortable or make people weirded out because I feel like there's so many things in our culture and in this world that we are shamed about talking about our sexuality, talking about our bits, talking about issues that might be coming up, talking about past trauma. And I don't feel like these things should be shameful items that we can't express, right? So I loved working in the sexual health and the urology type domain because I really do feel like when people have the opportunity to talk to somebody about their problems, somebody who they can genuinely feel cares and listens and wants the best for them, there's more of an openness and willingness to share. And I was also dealing with or nursing men who might have prostate cancer, and they might be struggling from erectile dysfunction after having chemotherapy, or undergoing different types of treatment. And so hearing their stories, getting to know who they are, or even women who've had children who now have prolapse and are struggling with incontinence. And it can be very embarrassing to be like leaking around when you've had a child, or even before you've had children, you just have urologic issues that are happening. So I loved talking to patients about these type of topics because to me, I feel like people shouldn't have to walk around holding shame about something that's happening. When your body is bodying, sometimes you just have to tune in and know that there's people out there who are ready to listen and serve and help you in the best way that they can. And that is what I felt I was able to do in my job, and which is why I loved my job so much. And yeah, I digress. And this is why I feel like YouTube is the place for me, because I feel like if you're still with me, then you're definitely going to be my type of person. My mind goes back and forth, but I always come back to a central point. So basically, after working within neurodynamics, I knew I loved working with people, but I started to notice some trends and patterns within myself, my coworkers, and just other nurses that I'm talking to, like, techs, phlebotomists, doctors. And it's that most of us were really burnt out. Some people were burnt out, some people were rusted out, which is like a term that I will actually probably make a video on. But it's basically when you are not overwhelmed, but you just know that your skills are maybe not used to its full potential, but you don't know where to go next, right? So I started seeing all these things, and I also had periods of time where I was dealing with a lot of stress and anxiety around my job. And I've had to learn how to nurture my emotional and nervous system. I've had to learn how to regulate my nervous system, because I specifically had one experience within my nursing career where the physician I was working with would really yell when they were upset. And for me, that was, they would yell and they would call names and they would do some things that were really inappropriate. But because they were a physician, and because there is a bit of a dynamic between physicians and nurses, there was this there was this tension that built between us as colleagues, and none of the nurses were really able to speak up. And it was just a very awkward dynamic. And when you're just learning new skills and you're trying to understand the environment and acclimatize to where you are, and you have somebody whose reaction to errors or reactions to things that are not have not gone according to their schedule or their plan is to yell or get angry or call names, it can be very off-putting and very stressful, or add to the stress. So in those environments, I had to learn how to really regulate myself. And that took me months. And it was months of me reprogramming my nervous system. And basically, when I would get anxious or stressed, rather than react by shutting down, or like, I would have to like talk to myself kindly and be like, okay, you're stressed, you're nervous, that's okay, you'll be fine. Let's work through this, breathe, do things to get myself back into the moment and not let the stress or anxiety take me over. And I don't feel like these are topics people really talk about, because sometimes we don't even have the vocabulary or a way of really expressing it, or it can be shameful. But like I said, I'm all here for talking about shameful stuff, because I've been through a lot of stuff. And I do feel like I'm at the point in my life where if you're going to judge me for where I've been or what I've done, and you can't take me at face value, then you're probably not my person, and that's okay. You do you. So yeah, so part of seeing this reality that a lot of nurses, and I speak on nurses because it's my firsthand experience, but I've also seen this with like my friends who are x-ray techs or CT techs, phlebotomists, physiotherapists, feeling burnt out, stressed, not knowing how to regulate their nervous system, not doing the self-care work necessary to maintain health and balance within their life. It made me realize, like, no, this is a problem, and this is something that needs to be really shared and reinforced in our communities. So that became part of my mission, to really not just talk about it, but share my journey about it and go from. For me as a caregiver, I I go from one extreme to the next. Okay. So I have done like strict, okay, I'm gonna wake up, meditate for an hour, journal, and then stretch, and then do this. And then you realize, like, okay, I'm waking up at like 3 in the morning to get all my stuff done. Like, this is a little crazy. To not doing as much and realizing I need more of a structured approach to how I approach mindfulness. So, what I really focus on at the Caregiver Hub is really getting caregivers to understand that there's no perfect prescription, there's no right way of doing things. And the best way to approach mindfulness and well-being, holistic well-being for you as an individual is to inquire with yourself and really dig deep enough to understand like what works for me, what makes me feel good. Am I a breath work girly? Am I someone who needs like physical modalities to help me tune into that grounded sense of self? Or am I someone who needs to journal? Am I someone who likes to speak to other people? Do I need to see a counselor? Is it money that really gets me off of my game? Am I managing my money well? Am I not? And if not, who do I contact? So the approach with the Caregiver Hub is to really look at the individual and figure out with them, how do I best move with intention to achieve the best version of me, right? Because at the end of the day, like I said, when you're a better version of you, you just show up differently. You glow differently. You beam differently. And that's all I can ever ask for other people. I just want to bring value to people. And it's not even me bringing value. It's just, I feel a lot of the times with my clients, it's just permissioning them to know that like what you are desiring from others, you actually already have. And you just have to give yourself the time and the space to allow yourself to trust yourself to show that version of yourself to the world, right? And this is a continuous process because I'm being here on this platform, sharing this message is also a test for me where I'm just like, you have to trust your gut, you have to trust where you're coming from and trust that you're sharing this with good intention and see where it takes you, right? Because we are all unique. And I think one of the biggest things I'm learning is to not box yourself in. And with that said, I also like to look at like astrology and I like to look at human design because I don't take any of these measures as like the right way to do it or the only way, but any modality that helps people understand themselves more to me is helpful. And for me, I read a lot and I watch a lot of YouTube videos about stuff. Listen to a lot of podcasts from a wide range of topics from nutrition to longevity to finance to cryptocurrency to global issues because I'm just a very curious person. And I love to see that curiosity fostered in other people to be able to get curious about themselves and learn and just allow their vibrance to shine through. So once again, I'm kind of going on a rant, so I'm going to ramp it back in and bring it back to what I really wanted to hone down. Just to share a little bit more about what the Caregiver Hub offers at this time, because there's still room for growth. We are growing. But basically, right now, I offer one-on-ones. And there's two types. Like, there is one program that people seem to actually really like. It's called the Clarity Catalyst, where it's for people who don't really feel like they're ready to commit to a coaching program, but they would love some input on their life or love some direction. And they want to venture it on their own. And I'm like, to that, I'm like, do you? I love that for you. I would love to support you or give you an extra set of eyes to a topic or an area of your life or a holistic part of your life that might be helpful. So it's like a 2-session, 90-minute session each, just to kind of talk things through. And we look at your chart, like your human design and your astrology, and we just like kind of piece things together. And some people really like that. And then I have my 8-week program, which we go through the key stuff like the finances, nutrition, physical well-being. We go through emotional well-being, like and nervous system regulation, your somatic system, relationships. And it's crazy how all of these things tie together and how we think they're so isolated, but typically how we do one thing is how we do many things. And until we realize that, we will continue to see patterns repeating in our lives. And this is something like I've had to learn the hard way. Trust me, I've been seeing my coach for years, years. And it's not because I just wasn't growing. I've grown so much. But for me, I've also recognized, and I'm a projector, and I'm a self-projected projector. So for me, talking my my thoughts out and expressing myself is literally part of my design. And getting another, maybe not always even getting another person's opinion, but sharing it and have them voice back to me what I've shared helps give me insight on how I process. So that is part of my journey and my process. So when I have my 8-week program, we typically look at everything and go week by week. We tackle different parts of your life, and in the end, we do an review. And some people extend for more than the 8 weeks, and if that's great for them. And some people stay at the 8 weeks, and they've taken the value and they grow and continue on in their journey. At the end of the day, like it brings me so much joy to see people learning about themselves and being able to take the knowledge they've gained to build their own systems for ways to help nourish themselves, and the light and joy that they can bring to other people once they feel connected to themselves is something that I can't even put words to. So yeah, I got super like emotional and passionate about it only because I've seen change happen within myself, within my clients, and it just makes me extremely happy. And yeah, I'm gonna be really like really cheesy and stuff, but that's also me. And the second part of the Caregiver Hub that is officially starting this week is Waffle Wednesday. It actually started off from, I don't know if anybody saw like the trend that went on in 2024, where this guy was talking about how he would call his friends or they would send each other voice notes every Wednesday to just like check in and just be like real. And I'm like, yes, I need this in my life. And I started having somewhat similar sessions with a few friends. And then I thought, why not do it for caregivers? So this is like a completely free space where caregivers can come together, and we were really just going to talk. We're going to talk, we're going to share, but the primary focus of this space is to dwell in the positive, to uplift each other. So it's cool to express what you're going through, share frustration, but the space is cultivating positivity and cultivating actually reframing the way we view situations in our life, because what we put our energy into is what we're actually going to attract and continue to see in our lives. So I am trying to build a space where people can come together and just be like filled with positivity and leave that space being like, yo, I feel great. Like I feel uplifted, you know? So that is what I want. And that is what I hope people who join the space also desire. So it's going to be on Wednesdays. It's going to be 8:30 Dubai time. And that way I hope to just meet a lot of really cool people. We'll share, we'll have a space for gratitude, and then I'll have a space for like a mini meditation or breath work, depending on what the energy calls for, and move in that direction. So yeah, guys, that's pretty much what I've been up to with the Caregiver Hub. Lots of big stuff happening. I'm doing some caregiver interviews where I'm just interviewing real life caregivers, asking them about their life, what their day-to-day looks like, and how they care for themselves. So stay tuned for it. But with all that said, I just want to reinforce, as a caregiver, do not let people put you in a box. Do not let people tell you that this is what caregivers do. This is what a nurse does, a doctor does. I said that really weird. You are multifaceted, and you're able to do anything you really want. You know, at the end of the day, I am a nurse. I'm now teaching at a university. I'm teaching nursing students. Um, I'm a dancer. I dance kizomba and salsa. I used to run track competitively, and I'm now training for high rocks. Like, who cares? I'm doing what life has shown me and what feels good to me. I want to feel good. I want to have fun. I want to elicit joy and excitement and fun, lightheartedness in my life. So I hope that the more we get people in this space of gratitude and reframing how life is presenting itself to us, and the more we're able to allow people to cultivate spaces of joy and fun and happiness for themselves, they show up differently. And then they can show up differently for their work and their family and their friends. And I think that's how the ripple effect happens. And that's how we close that gap within healthcare of like all these nurses burning out, all these nurses actually leaving the profession, all these people, like, you know how many stories I've seen lately of nurses and doctors and physios and all these people actually just quitting the medical system and deciding they're no longer going to do or work in medicine. And it's actually quite sad. It's heartbreaking because these are people who probably love what they do, but they're just overworked, overtired. And I'm not saying that doing these things will make a change immediately. But what I'm saying is that when you start pouring into yourself, your whole environment changes because you see the value in you and you start making changes, small incremental changes that change the way your life looks, right? So yeah, I'm sorry if I sound a little nasally. I'm just coming off a bit of a flu, but I thought that's one thing for me now. I can procrastinate once in a while. And I told myself, oh, if I wait, if I keep saying like one thing leads to another, and I keep saying, oh, I'm going to record this video. Oh, I'm going to start doing my YouTube videos. Oh, I'm going to start doing this. I would never do it because there's always going to be something. And 2 weeks ago, there was something else. And last week, there was something. And then this week, I had the flu. And I'm like, honestly, Sarah, if you don't sit your behind down and get in front of this camera and record your video, I'm going to be upset with myself because I'm letting excuses get in the way of me sharing my message. So that is it. I'm going to reel it in before I go down another tangent. Um, but yeah, I don't think I'm going to edit this video. I'm just going to start posting videos about my journey as I build out the Caregiver Hub, as I meet amazing caregivers and share their stories. And I hope this resonates with people. I hope caregivers see this and they feel empowered and they're ready to join even the free community on Wednesdays where we can all just meet. And I will also link below my LinkedIn. That's primarily where I'm the most active. I probably should get on TikTok or Instagram. I'm really like, it's just not my vibe right now. Anyways, yeah, I think that's it. Thank you for listening. And remember, when we support our caregivers, we're supporting the whole system. So it's not about the pizza parties. It's not about giving that wow, that one-off wellness session. It's about taking the time to invest in each caregiver individually so that they can feel renewed, refreshed within themselves. And the impact that that carries throughout the workforce is immense. Like you can't put words to it. Imagine if every nurse or doctor or physiotherapist who you are working with, nutritionist, whoever, was actively doing the work to work on themselves, actively implementing ways to better their own life, and they came into work happier because their mindset is fresh, their body feels better, they're eating better. Like imagine what that workforce could look like. You know what I mean? It would just be different. It would be different. We'd vibrate differently, right? Let me call this here. Let me call this one here. Anyways, guys, lovely chatting with you, low-key chatting with myself, but hey, that's what it is. And hopefully I will be in contact or hear from some of you soon. Please leave me a comment below if there's anything you'd like to hear from me or anything you'd like to know. I will be watching below. Bye. Cheers for now.